Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Super Week. We are about 7 days exactly from the kickoff of the Super Bowl, the Bengals versus Rams, and we're doing some fun stuff here at Off the Ball Network. This is going to be a great show. We're going to talk about the best Super Bowls that each as individuals that we ever watched. Have some fun, some nostalgia, and talk about some of the great games in NFL history. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited about it. Got a great crew going here tonight. I got Chris LeBon from the president of the Off the Ball Network. He does so much. He runs the Off the Ball podcast. He keeps us all inspired and keeps us going. He does a great job. Chris, it's good to see you, man.
Hey, always a pleasure. I feel like it's been a while since I chopped it up with Jeff and the crew. So I'm excited to talk about this. Getting ready for the Super Bowl and talk about our favorite Super Bowls.
Glad to have you here, man. We got Jurgen Coney. It's great to have you back on, man. It's been a while since we worked together. I know you've been a super busy guy, so I appreciate you coming on the show this week, man.
Of course, I had to. I've switched states since the last time I was here, Jeff. We can't be having that. Can't be having that. It's been that long.
A lot is going on. Couch Coach Live,
Yes.
from Couch Coach Live, from See Sunday, from the Washington Football Guys, on and on and on. The heart and soul, our NFL lead of the Off the Ball Network. Coach, how you doing this week, man?
I'm good, man. This the calm before the storm. Just looking forward to all
This
the
is your
hecticness of this
time,
week.
isn't it?
It's my wheelhouse.
This is your
yeah.
time, isn't it?
It's a holiday. It's a
It
holiday.
is.
I call it Christmas. It's another Christmas.
And Mo Murphy from Up in Flames, fellow vice president of the Off the Ball Network. Mo, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm VP1B, so I always take it, with
Nah.
salt. But yeah, I'm glad to be on, Jeff. I always love doing shows. Then we're deep with the guys, so I can't wait to talk about this.
We got the bar has been raised today. There will be every misstep will be exposed. This is an all-star team. This is our Pro Bowl. This is an Off the Ball Network Pro Bowl, if you
Off the
will.
ball Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I like it. So before we get started here on the best Super Bowl we ever watched, I had a question for all you guys. So I'll start with Chris LeBron, and I asked this: rate from 0 to 10, 10 being the highest, the possible excitement level of the upcoming Super Bowl between the Bengals and the Rams as we record right now next Sunday. How good could it be?
I think an 8. I think an 8
nice.
is a fair number. With the way the Bengals have just upset these teams I think a lot of people thought, all right, they go to Kansas City, it's done, and then they're down big, and it's like, all right, well, they're gonna get just get beat down, and then they come back. So like, you can't count them out. I know people are like, the Rams are gonna just wash them. It's like, how can you say that? Yeah, how can you say that? So, I'm hoping for a thriller. We'll see. Joe Burrow just has that it factor. So he, get sacked 11 times and still win a football game. To me, that's still one of the most impressive things I've seen from a quarterback and a team. If I tell you a team sacks your quarterback 11 times, you probably got your ass kicked. And for him to to bounce back and win that football game against Tennessee was impressive. And then last week, so I'll give it an 8. I think it could be a very good football game.
Man, I'll take an 8. I'll take an 8. Most of the games we talk about are like a 10, 10.5 level, but I'll take an 8. Jurg, what do you think, man? What's your ceiling?
See, I'm very torn. My ceiling. Okay, so it's actually kind of two different questions. I think my ceiling for this is very similar to Prez's. I want to say an 8 because I think this game does have the potential to be great. I think with the weapons we have on both sides, Jamar Chase on one side and Cooper Kupp on the other side, you have the best receiver in the game, the best rookie receiver this season, and who should be Offensive Rookie of the Year. NFL voters, don't screw this up, please. I think there's a lot of potential for offensive fireworks. My only tripping point to where it's like my ceiling is an 8, but I think it could be more like a 6 is because I just think the Rams defense is the best one the Bengals have seen by far this season. I think that front four is the most lethal one that the Bengals have seen this season. There was not, I know Chris Jones was great, but there was not an Aaron Donald on any of the teams the Bengals have faced so far this postseason. There has not been a Jalen Ramsey on any of the teams that the Bengals have faced this postseason. So I think this game could be great. I think the Bengals could definitely stay in it and potentially make it a shootout, but it all just does depend on that Rams defense. And I think the difference is that with Prez talking about your quarterback gets sacked 9 times and that they're still in that game, I don't think you can give the Rams 9 sacks and expect that game to still be close. I think they're a lot better than Tennessee because this is my Tennessee barb here. Ryan Tannehill's just not good. So at the end of the day, I want it to be an 8. I want it to be a 9 or a 10 because that's better for me. That's better for my job. But I think it could get what's the proper term here? I think we could get a little bit of rain on that depending on what the Rams do ultimately. They decide what our entertainment value is next week.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Couch Coach Live, how good can this game be?
I say it's gonna be a 7. I'm always leery about these type of games where the halftime show almost supersedes the actual game.
The halftime show better be like on 12.
Yes, and this was
I've been waiting for this my whole life.
Right, and this scares me because this kind of feels like the Miami Super Bowl with Prince Purple Rain at halftime,
Best
where
halftime
the
show.
game could be right, and the
show.
game could be a stinker. Like it almost reminds me of the Bruno Mars New Jersey Super Bowl with Seattle and Denver. This could be a repeat of maybe last year's Super Bowl. I think, in my personal opinion, initial thoughts going to it where Joe Burrow's not going to be able to kind of duck and dodge and elude tackles like he did last week against Kansas City. So it could be a potentially maybe almost eerily similar to last year's matchup as far as Patrick Mahomes getting crushed.
Okay, Mo Murphy, how good can this be?
Yeah, mine is a 7 as well.
Okay.
I thought about giving it a 6.
Okay, let's do this real quick. In your opinion, what would, just to give some clarity, what would you consider a Super Bowl in the past at a 7? Just so we have some sort of baseline here. That's probably kind of important.
A Super Bowl that was a 7 in the past. Oh man, you put me on the spot.
Let me throw one out to you. And we'll rank it. Let's go. Patriots Carolina. Really, really good game. Is that an 8, 9? Where are we putting that on the scale?
Yeah.
At that time, to me, it was like a 9 or 10. But in today's NFL, it wouldn't be. Because today's
I'm saying at that point.
But at that point, that was a solid like 8 or 9.
Okay, what about Rams Patriots? What about that one that just happened?
Ooh.
I
like that game. I like that game better.
It
I think
overall it was a dud.
In Atlanta, yeah.
But it was terrible. Excitement level was low. So we'll put that at what, a 4?
I think it was terrible. I think it was
that was like a 5, 6.
So what's a 0? What's the we should probably do a show on this, but like just real quick, throw out some of the worst that we've ever watched that you're just like
when the
Seattle and Denver. Yep.
Denver.
I remember that game. I stopped watching that game.
Giants, Ravens. Okay. I mentioned that one. 2000. Super Bowl. That one.
Okay. So I was trying to get a big.
I mean, the 85 Super Bowl, Jeff.
85.
That was a blowout. The 85 Bears when they won.
Mismatch from second one, but with the build up of the 85 Bears, it was. You're right. That was like a culmination of. Can they really do what we think they can do? And they did. So as far as excitement level, as far as 10-year-old Jeff. It was awesome because I was seeing some things I'd never seen, but I had a good point. All right, so Mo, you got it at a 7. I'm just trying to get a baseline there.
Yeah, so I say 7, and really, like, me and Couch Coach are on the same thought process. Like, I think this could get ugly, but I'm optimistic that it won't. Like, I'm optimistic that the Bengals are more than just a nice story. I mean, what they've done in reaching the Super Bowl, you can't cancel or count that out. Like, you even if they get blown out, like, Jeff, we talked about it. Nobody will care. Like, at the end of the day, if the Bengals fall short, the Rams blow them out. Like, nobody will dog Joe Burrow. Nobody will say the Bengals are frauds. Like, you're not fraudulent once you reach the Super Bowl. But like you said, with all the offensive star power on both sides, like you're talking about a receiving core of Boyd, Higgins, and Chase, and then you go on the other side, you're talking about Van Jefferson, Odell Beckham, and Cooper Kupp. Like, then you
like Van Jefferson more than most people do. I like him.
And then you talk about running backs, and you're like, well, you got Joe Mixon on the Bengals, then you got the, Sony Michel, Cam Akers, and Henderson for the Rams. So you're like, there's a bunch of offense here, but I don't know. This will be the toughest battle for the Bengals offensive line. And we've seen what they did with the Titans, and obviously but the Titans got to them and sacked them, double-digit times, but at the same time, they also didn't have an Aaron Donald or a Von Miller that's coming after them. So I think part of me thinks like the halftime show could be the highlight of this Super Bowl. Like there's a slight part of me that's like, come halftime, like this is what we get excited for. That's when the drinks really start going. That's when the nostalgia comes back. Dr. Dre, Eminem, like, and I hate the cancel culture. I just want to say that I hate the cancel culture because we're not going to get the Eminem that everybody wants. Like, we're not going to get My Name Is in the real.
Oh,
Get that because I don't think he's not allowed.
But you also, we could this is a different show, man. But like,
I'm just saying, I just wanted to throw that out there. That
like you can't be talking about murdering your mom all the time. Like there's a gray area.
But as great as the lineup is, I'm just also like we're not gonna get the real Slim Shady because
the real Slim Shady.
The real Slim Shady is not.
No.
I am here. I am here to do a show on. I'm here to do a show on that generation of MCs anytime. But so I'm kind of at the same thing. I've got the excitement level. I actually think the potential excitement level is at a 9. And here's why. It's because of all the unknowns. This is the first Super Bowl. I mean, it's documented. It's been over a decade since we've had a Super Bowl with so many unknowns. We got 2 quarterbacks who haven't been there, not let alone not win, haven't been there. And it's all about the quarterbacks. You got this kid in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, who like, is he some kind of myth? Is he like around in Ohio? He is starting to become a legend, and he's the same age as my son. Like it is really weird, how it's growing, the myth of it, but he keeps backing it up. You got Matt Stafford, obviously the story of him and in his career and validating it. You got Aaron Donald, can solidify being one of the greatest players in the history of the NFL. You got Von Miller, who actually, he's the veteran on the team. They traded for him in the midseason, but he's actually the highest rated defender in the playoffs so far. He's having a great playoffs, but he's been there. So he's the guy that's been there. So many guys on either side, young guys who want to win their first. You got guys like Whitworth playing against his old team, 40, right? at 40 years old, might win his first after a brilliant career. There's so many of these side stories that you don't, and I think what makes it exciting is you're not necessarily polarized to hate any of these guys. Like, I don't know how many people are like anybody but Stafford or anybody but Burrow. Like you may be on, you may lean, but you're not like on one side of it, like when Brady's there, or Rodgers is there, or something like that. So I think the potential excitement, and Mo, you talked about all the offensive weapons, is off the charts. Like this could be the Cooper Kupp game, this could be the Aaron Donald game, this could be the Jamar Chase game. Like I see a world where Jamar Chase has 250 receiving yards. Let's say Bates for Cincinnati has 3 interceptions, all of the Tampa Bay Super Bowl back in the day, and you got this crazy so-called upset. They're going to call it an upset. It's in LA, so there's going to be a bit of excitement about that. The halftime show, like, I'm sorry, you're playing a game and you've got the legends in the building, like that's something different. So I think excitement possibility is at 9 for all those reasons. So, but now we're going to talk about some games that we know how they turned out, and we know these are all 10s. Like these games are 10s. We know it. It's weird because I grew up in the 80s where the NFC kind of had this weird run to where they just blew through the Super Bowls, I think for like 12 years or something like that. And it was kind of an odd time. Looking back, some of the games were better than we think, but it was a weird time to where the Super Bowl was always considered, at that point, it was all about the halftime show. It was considered anticlimactic, all these things. When the Bears, the 86 Giants, the 87 Washington, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, Coach.
Hey, say what you got to say.
Oh, you know what? I'll call him the 87 Doug Williams. That's a different show. Me and little tiptoe show me and Mo are going to do this week. But anyway, it was just all these games in and year out. And then finally, like the AFC kind of broke back through in the 90s with John Elway over the, and things like that. And then we had a pretty good run in the last 20 years of some good games. So the Super Bowl hasn't always been the best game played of the season. It's just always been the biggest game played of the season. So I brought these guys on here and they're going to talk about their individual best game that they ever watched. It's going to be pretty cool. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to kick this off. I'm the oldest guy at the network. I feel like I'm the oldest guy in podcasting sometimes. And, this game goes way back. It was played over 30 years ago, but it holds up. I've rewatched it. I thought, man, am I just caught up in nostalgia? No, I went with Super Bowl 23, the San Francisco 49ers. Everybody knows the drive. They beat the Cincinnati Bengals 20-16. It was played in Miami, Florida, on January 22nd, 19. You guys remember they used to play Super Bowl in January? I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yes.
But January 22nd, 1989, Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami, Florida. And it still, I think, is the best Super Bowl that I ever watched. It was wonderful. The main things that I took away from it, like when I first thought about this list, the first thing I thought of was like, I remember this game being tense. I'm from Ohio. Like we were all caught up in Cincinnati, welcome to the jungle hysteria at this point. So like, I very vividly remember this. My mom is a Bengals fan. There's Bengals fan everywhere. We were all caught up in it. This team was really, really good. This team was much better than the 49ers coming into that game. The 49ers were only 10-6 that season. So just all the excitement of it, it was like, holy cow. And this is back before the Ohio State dynasty. So like Ohio football fans, it's not like we were spoiled with the Buckeyes. The Browns they had been to a couple and had the heartbreak seasons and all this, but I mean, there hadn't really been true success for a while. So the fever had built up. You're playing the 49ers, the Bill Walsh, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Roger Craig, basically the whole team, Hall of Fame team, 49ers, all that going for it. And I just remember like it was so tense from start to finish. When I went back and watched it, I was right. This game had 3 ties throughout. The biggest lead ever in this game was 7 points, which you guys know in football now is nothing. Back then, it wasn't either, but it was just crazy. Like the biggest lead was 7 points. It was just insane. And then my next memory was like, all I remember is like Jerry Rice. Like that was the game. Because, Jerry Rice wasn't on the first 2 49ers Super Bowl teams. So he didn't win those first 2 championships with the 49ers. He came in 85 after the 84 win over the Dolphins. So this was Jerry Rice's first Super Bowl. And he absolutely, like, he's the best player on the field. Like anybody that wants to, we kind of get caught up in some of the latter years of Jerry Rice and how good he was and stuff. But if you really go back to when Jerry Rice was, at the top of his powers, he was Jamar Chase. Like he was that good physically, and mentally and route running and all these things. So, that jumped out to me. This is the game that there was mistakes on either side. Both defenses played really well. There was 9 punts total, but there were sacks. They were getting rushed. Like nobody could get anything done, and then it all came down to the drive. The Bengals were 3 minutes and 44 seconds away from a Super Bowl win. Montana gets the ball down, inside his 10-yard line. The famous story, he tells the John Candy story. John Candy's in the stands. Everybody realized how relaxed he is. Then he essentially just lobs the ball to Jerry Rice most of the way down the field. Throws a great pass to John Taylor. Breaks everyone's heart in the Midwest. I can remember at the time, like, as mad as I've ever been at the end of a football game. You know what I mean? Because it was just that important then. So that was the game I picked. It holds up. Bill Walsh, the legend, Bill Walsh. I mean, West Coast offense was at the height of its powers at this point. And when you watch that game, you still see stuff that transfers in today's NFL. That's how good of a coach he was in the 80s. He retired after the game. He didn't coach the next Super Bowl, which the next year was a whole different ball game. Again, the legends, just watching, it was just crazy. And it's still just like star-studded. I was at the right age, the right time. It's one of the greatest finishes in football history. And so I picked Super Bowl 23, 49ers versus the Bengals. I don't know what your guys' recollection of this game is, or how much you know about it, or how, like, if there's any legend to you, but any thoughts on this game in a couple minutes?
And the only really reason why I remember it, because obviously just watching America's Game when they did that. So really a lot of that, and then also Cincinnati, because I think they had a series of teams that lost Super Bowls as well. And just, the heartbreak.
Yeah, they lost 2 to the 49ers in the 80s.
Yeah, and they had an America's Game for the Bengals because that, so it was really heartbreaking. And I remember just because their coach was, oh gosh, I can't believe
Sam Weiss.
Sam Weiss, he just passed away too.
He was a Bill Walsh disciple.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I remember because that was a situation with the defensive lineman number 69 got hurt,
broke his leg.
Yeah, broke his leg, and I remember that was heartbreking. And then it was another guy, one of the running backs. Because remember he ended up failing. It was almost similar to what happened to the dude from the Raiders. What's his face? Because he ended up because it was, I think it was one of the running backs or somebody, he was like on drugs. and he ended up missing the game. Like they ended up something ended up happening.
Yeah,
There
there
was
was.
some circumstance.
I do
forgot
remember
who
a
it
story though.
was. But and like everything that he endured in that Super Bowl, and it was heartbreaking. Like like they were that close.
It was a devastating
Right.
loss. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was there for him. And the Bengals were good the next year, and then famously, their last playoff win until this year was 1991. But it was just but then when you go back, I mean, Montana had 357 yards passing. Like he played great. It was just Ronnie Lott, just to watch Ronnie Lott play football again. I just forget just the impact he had. Just a true legendary game.
And that was one that because Boomer made the commercial. I'm going to Disney World. I mean, going to Disneyland too, right? And because that was a Super Bowl where they thought they was gonna win. Like as far as they did a recording.
Oh, they might have.
Saying I'm going to Disneyland.
Yep, there might be one out there because that was the beginning of that. Phil Simms, I think Phil Simms was the first
original. But I remember Boomer. I remember Boomer. I think he said that in the documentary. If my memory serves correct, but yeah,
I believe it. So yeah, that was my pick, but it holds up. I stand by it. Just what a game, what a game. So Jurg, what's yours, man? What's your pick for the best Super Bowl you ever watched?
How funny would it be if I just went even more old school and I went to like Super Bowl I, just to go way past Jeff, even though I was
66 Packers, Max McGee on the Hangover. Max McGee on the Hangover.
Bart Starr.
No jokes. I didn't watch that one live.
Lynn Dawson.
But so my actual Super Bowl pick is Super Bowl 52 when the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots faced off in what ended up becoming an absolute duel of a game that the Eagles ended up winning. Final score from memory was 41-33. I'm a big story guy, so just going into that game itself, the Pats winning the previous year, of course, the infamous, notorious 28-3 Super Bowl comeback against the Atlanta Falcons. Coming into that, the Patriots have everything, like nothing to lose, but everything to gain, because that would have been the second time under the Belichick and Brady era that they would have won 3 and 4 years. The second time they would have repeated to this day. The last team to ever repeat as Super Bowl champions were the early 2000s Patriots. Could you imagine what it would do we already know Brady's the greatest of all time. That has always been cemented, and he has cemented it even more so since. And we know Belichick with the greatest coach of all time. Could you imagine if it's like the last team to repeat was that Patriots team, and then the next team to repeat is those two leading them again? It was something just absolutely insane going into it, where it's like, are they really going to be the next team to repeat after they were the last team to repeat? And honestly, it was the most believable thing. Like, yeah, it's Brady and Belichick. Of course, this is going to happen to us.
That was a really fun game to watch too. The Nick Foles saga, like the season, like Carson Wentz, MVP candidate, blew out his knee. The whole storyline to that, leading up to it, I believe Philly. That was the year that Minnesota had the miracle win and over the Saints, right? Yeah. And then Philly beat the snot out of the Minnesota
in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, the storylines were off the chart. I will say that's one of the, if we did a funnest list, that's one of the funnest games I ever watched. It was just fun.
Yeah. The playoffs as a whole, like kind of looking back at it was kind of crazy because Atlanta coming in, like we know them now as the team that always collapses, but they still had a chance in those playoffs. They beat a young Sean McVay Rams team because that was the first time McVay and the Rams made the playoffs. At that point, the Falcons beat them, and the Falcons just barely lose to the Eagles. So kind of like you said, so going closer to the actual game itself, the interesting thing was the Eagles, that we always talk about in sports, it's like doing it the quote unquote right way when it comes to building your team. And the Eagles were kind of with that. A lot of their team was naturally drafted by that organization. Yeah. And they traded up for Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz looked like he was going to pay off the organization's gamble. He had an MVP caliber season. He probably would have been the MVP had he finished off that season. That's how good he was. But then he gets injured. And we're talking about storylines here. The legend of Big Richard Nick Foles just evolves with that entire playoff run, winning against the Falcons, just destroying, like you said, Jeff, the Minnesota Vikings. And then the game itself, coming into it, everybody that I knew personally was picking the Patriots. Nobody gave the Eagles a shot. No one in the world was giving the Eagles a chance. Some people were saying it could be a close game, but no one was giving it a fair, a chance that the Eagles were going to win that game. And immediately, Philadelphia coming out the first half, it's relatively close at first, but then they start building up a little bit of a lead. They were up like 15-3 or 15-6 at one point. Then the first team to get in the 20s. It was 22-12, either at the end of the first half or like early in the third quarter. That game, it looked like, oh, the Eagles have this lead, but then the Patriots start coming back. And the reason why I picked this game over the Patriots-Falcons games from the year before is because it was a lot closer the whole time. While we know how incredible the finish that game was, I hold a lot of value into a game where it's still relatively close. And like you said, Jeff, with with a one touchdown lead being nothing, a 10-point lead in today's NFL, even years ago, is still essentially nothing. And so the Patriots were in it the whole time. And then they kept going back and forth. The Patriots were trying to answer. And just when you thought it's like, oh, Patriots are going to win, they're going to go on this run, they're going to have 3 straight drives with touchdown. No, the Eagles kept beating them. They kept fighting back. They held that lead up until just under 8 minutes to go. The Patriots did take the lead against them with a Gronk touchdown. Then the Eagles take back the lead, and that's Brady. It's last 2.5, 3 minutes of the fourth quarter. It's like, this guy's about to do it again. And that was Derek Barnett getting the strip sack.
Yeah.
And the Eagles shock everyone and shock the world. They build up the 8-point lead. And even though there was like a very small chance, because I think like Brady's Hail Mary like reached the end zone.
It was.
There was a chance at the very
I believe it
end.
almost like hit Gronk or something, if I remember correct. Like it was that close. Or no, I might be thinking of the 07 one too. But
it's very close there. And it's like, for me, this is what I'll finish up with. For me, that game being so explosive in and of itself, that's why for me I pick it, because it's that old saying of it was like a heavyweight boxing match. They kept going back and forth. And the Patriots, that game was amazing. That was Brady's best passing Super Bowl ever with over 500 yards.
I was going to say some stats from it. Nick Foles, 373 yards, 3 touchdowns, plus he caught a touchdown. Tom Brady, 505 yards and 3 touchdowns. This is in one game. The rushing yards, I mean, both teams were the Patriots didn't have a great day. They were right around 100. Eagles rushing. Anybody remember LeGarrette Blount had I think he won one with the Patriots, but he played for the Eagles then. He has a touchdown, 90 yards rushing. This was I remember as of the Alshon Jeffrey game. He had a couple of the big catches, only 3 for 73 yards and a touchdown, but they all counted. Just an incredible offensive game. Really a lot of fun to watch. And the Philly specials. Well, this is also the game. You had the Philly special. It's one of the greatest plays in NFL history. And then you have New England ran Clemson, which is essentially the same play, and Tom Brady drops the ball. To me, that's one of my favorite moments in NFL history, when that ball bounces off Tom Brady's fingers selfishly. What a great game. And this game ages very well. Like, I think this is one that, in 20 years will be like, just to watch a game, you're like, wow, that's one of the funnest games ever. So we'll go around the horn here. We'll get some of the thoughts on it. Chris LeBron, what'd you think about this game?
Oh man, that was a really fun game. I mean, just the back and forth. I mean, the worst part is the fact that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and I think Couch knows, like, being a Washington fan,
it's fair.
It was fun, even Mo, being a Cowboys fan, it was fun making fun of the Eagles for being the only team without a chip. And when they won the Super Bowl, like, a part of me was like, okay, I guess it's kind of cool that, like, we're the only division that has a Super Bowl winner representative, and each team has a Super Bowl, and no other division has that. But then it's like, the freaking Eagles have a Super Bowl. Like, why? Like, this is awful. This is awful for the world. This is just bad. Like, we cannot allow this. Like, the only thing worse would be the Cowboys winning the Super Bowl. Like, Eagles winning the Super Bowl it was horrible. Absolutely.
Hey, I'm a Dolphins fan. I had to watch New England win 6 of them, so I get where you're coming from here.
So, like, it was tough seeing it, but I mean, they had a great game plan, and offensively, just tricks and all that, just getting there, and then just make it. Listen, the defense didn't do great, but they made the play that mattered most when it mattered most. They made the strip sack. And on Tom Brady, who everyone thought was like, okay, he's gonna drive and he's gonna do what Tom does, and he might have. It felt like it was gonna happen, but they let inside pressure and he finished it. But it was a great game to watch. Regardless of that the Eagles finally winning the Super Bowl.
These are some wild stats. Check this out. We'll go to Couch next. This is Patriots receiving. Rob Gronkowski, 9 for 116. Danny Amendola, 8 for 152.
There was no Edelman, right? Edelman had torn his ACL that year, right? Was that?
Yeah, he was out.
He was out.
Yeah.
And a gentleman named Chris Hogan. Dollar General Edelman has 6 receptions for 128 yards. That is, these are insane. They like Brady torched.
Brady threw for over 500 yards.
He torched him.
Yep.
Absolutely torched him. What a game! So, Couch Coach Live, thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I'm like everybody else in this NFC East congregation. And initially, I was.
That's what Coach says, right?
You know, what's so funny? I did have them predicted going into that week as to win, but like after they won, I'm like you said, I can hold that over. Like if I have, like, you know, they always talk jokes. Hey, oh, y'all suck. Have y'all won a Super Bowl? Like we said, we can't use that no more. That used to be like the go-to, but now it's like they've won the most recent Super Bowl.
That's what I said. They're most recent.
So, but yeah, it was a good game. Like back and forth, you know, like the Philly special, definitely. Nick Foles, he came to life again. He was he balled out in that game. He definitely, submitted his place and won and Philly's, an iconic moment in Philly history.
How can Belichick not stop Nick Foles? Like, is that the? I'm serious. Is that the mystery of this game?
Yeah.
Like,
really
you talk about a team being at the right place
100%.
at the right time.
Yeah, and that's why Frank Wright is in Indianapolis, essentially.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why Peterson gets it. That's why Peterson gets another job, because of this one game.
Yeah, that's why he Duval.
Different conversation.
Josh McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels. Yeah.
Isn't that somehow Matt Patricia got a job out of this?
Both the offensive coordinators of these
teams
technically accepted the Colts job. Just only one of them took.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot. Yep. Josh McDaniels. He did a Bill Belichick with the Jets.
All right, we'll complete the NFC East sweep here
and just doing teams dirty.
Yeah, we'll complete the NFC East sweep. Mo Murphy, why do you hate this game?
So it's crazy because I'm gonna tell you why.
Just so everybody knows, once Mo starts with it's gonna get fun.
So I'm gonna tell you why I hate this game. So pre-show, I told y'all why I hate the Atlanta versus New England game, right? So I thought I learned my lesson. So we go into the next year, never bet against Tom Brady, right? So boom, I go and bet another about $2,000 on Tom Brady. I'm like, never bet against Tom Brady and the Patriots.
No.
I thought I learned my lesson. I'm like, I bet on Atlanta. I bet against Tom Brady. Like, I thought I learned my lesson. So I go in the next year. I'm like, I'm taking all bets. I got New England. I learned my lesson last year. Everybody, anybody that don't know, y'all should know by now, but I'm in the Navy, so I'm on the boat or whatever, and I'm all week. I'm taking all bets. I got Tom Brady. I learned my lesson. I'm ready to go get all my money back. Bet about $2,000.
Well, there's a number you can call, bro.
Yeah,
we can get you some help.
And you know what's crazy is that this stamp on, like, my wife is like, you have a problem, and next time you do this, I'm gonna kill you. So that was one of the. But like, I'm like, oh yeah.
Well, that works too. That is also very functional. That's very functional therapy.
I'm like, the Eagles are. I'm like, no, I'm never betting on the Eagles anyway. They're not getting my money. Like, no, I'm going to bet on Tom Brady. I learned my lesson last year, and then Tom Brady fails me to the Eagles. Like, not only do I lose money, I lose money to the division foe. And I really think Philly. I know Dallas is like the most hated team around the country, but I think when it comes to the NFC East, I really think like we all hate Philly more than we hate everybody else. Like, the rival between Washington and Dallas is probably the biggest rival in the NFC East. The Giants and Cowboys, like, we have our tiffs, and the Giants have won Super Bowls in the tenure and all that. But I think like we all could come together, all three of us, and be like, we hate Philly. We all hate Philly equally. So to see that team, I would have rather seen Chris be able to celebrate his 3rd Super Bowl. I would rather Couch Coach say I got a Super Bowl more recent than Philadelphia fans telling me like we're the most recent NFC East team with a Super Bowl. Like, so I think like Philly has made themselves like the most hated city, especially Chris. Like, I know he understands. He's from New York. Like, you hate the Sixers, you hate the Philadelphia Phillies. Like, you just hate everything about Philly. You hate the Flyers. So it's a different understanding than for me. But like, of all teams that could have won and could have lost me some money, it had to be Philly. Like, I was just so hurt.
Yeah, they booed Santa Claus.
Yeah, I hear you, Mo. I hear you, because we're about to talk about your game, and I feel the exact same way as you guys do. So I will be able to chime in on this. But that was, that was a great choice. That was a great Super Bowl. I enjoyed it. I despise New England. I'm a Dolphins fan. I've despised New England since they screwed up our 1985 shot rematch with the Chicago Bears. The only team to beat the Chicago Bears that year were the 85 Dolphins, by the way. But I'll never forgive them. And Tom Brady played for the team up north. So I get so many reasons to root against Tom Brady. But that was just, I remember at the end of that game, the overwhelming feeling I had was it was fun. I really just, and I don't do that a lot, because I'm like all you guys. We're passionate. That's why we do what we do. We have a dog in a fight in almost every single sporting event played. That was one of the few games to where I'm like, man, this is just fun. I am having a good time watching football and talking football and tweeting football. So that's how I remember that game. It was one of the most enjoyable that I ever watched. So, all right, Mo, you're up. Who did you select for the best Super Bowl you ever watched?
So I went with Super Bowl 43, the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, Jeff, I don't need to say, I'll tell you why. I mean, I need to say, but you know why that is my favorite Super Bowl.
It's probably Santonio Holmes.
That is 100%.
I call it the Santonio Holmes game. He had one of the best drives in Super Bowl history.
Being the Super Bowl MVP and making, we talk about some of the greatest catches, right? In the David Tyree catch comes up, the helmet catch, the Mario Manningham catch comes up, because those were
Edelman catch.
And Edelman. So if you rank top 5, and I think the catch that get left out is literally the catch that won the Super Bowl, Santonio Holmes.
It wasn't a lucky catch either.
Yeah, it took zero luck. It was the Tony toe tap, what we call it now, was on the edge of the end zone. And you know me, Jeff, of all the teams I love Ohio State more than anything. I wish nothing but the best for every Ohio State player, no matter where they play. So to be able to sit there, make all y'all some of y'all feel old. I was 14 at the time. But to be able to sit there and watch Santonio Holmes make that catch, cool. I was rooting for Pittsburgh solely because of Santonio Holmes. He was the dog I had in the fight. Obviously, I don't know about having dogs in fights in Super Bowls, because my team is never there in my lifetime. So he was the dog I had in the fight. I wanted to see Santonio Holmes get it. I wanted to see the Ohio State player get it. And then when you just think about that Super Bowl, when you go back, all the star power, Pittsburgh should have won that game. When you think about Carson Palmer played really well that year. Obviously, Larry Fitzgerald was arguably the best wide receiver in the league at that point in time. Definitely top 3, inarguable, but he was arguably the best player in the league. But you looked at it, and it was favor for kind of Pittsburgh to blow out Arizona, essentially. It was one of those, all things are in their favor. Pittsburgh had an elite defense.
This was the best Pittsburgh team of the Roethlisberger era. This was the height.
Yeah,
100%. And you just look at the roster, especially you look at that defense, and this was a legendary defense. Everything told you kind of Arizona doesn't have a chance. So for it to come down to the wire, and ultimately Santonio Holmes have to answer with an amazing Tony toe tap catch at the back of the end zone, with literally his 2 big toes in, that goes to show you how great that game was. And you know what I'm saying? I remember watching it. I was watching it with my dad, and we both were rooting for Pittsburgh for the simple fact, we were all about Santonio Holmes. I wanted to see my Ohio State guy get the Super Bowl, and then for him to make that catch, like you said, that's
he had the whole drive too. I believe he had I think he had every catch on that drive.
He had every catch, and when you say that, when you think about it, that was one of the greatest non-quarterback drives we've seen. It goes back to when you talk about Jerry Rice. When you talked about Jerry Rice against the Bengals, that's up there with if you give credit to a drive on a non-quarterback for making plays, Santonio Holmes was that. He had every catch, and then he had the catch of all catches at that point in time. And so
the throw too, the throw by Roethlisberger, you could argue is one of the best in Super Bowl history too.
Because it's one of those.
I was because
it was perfect. It had to be the perfect throw.
It had to be perfect. Everything had to line up perfect.
So to summarize this, this was Pittsburgh won 27-23. It was played in Tampa, Florida it was 2009, right?
February 1st.
Yeah, February 1st, 2009.
Yep.
So it was crazy. This was a lot. Just to remind people, Kurt Warner was the quarterback for Arizona. He left St. Louis. We thought his career was over in New York. He comes back to Arizona to be, I don't even know if he went there to be the starter. I can't remember the whole situation.
No, because remember that was supposed to be Matt Ladner. Remember that was supposed to be Matt Ladner team.
I knew there was somebody. Kurt Warner takes over.
He can't play.
So Arizona was 9-7 and in the Super Bowl. And I disagree. As far as watching the game, Arizona should have won this game. So famously, what happened in this game is that Ken Wisenhunt played it close to the vest, and he didn't unleash the offense until the second half. And you have the play on the goal line, and at the very end of the first half, the Arizona's on the goal line. They're going to go in. They're going to take control of the game. And then Wisenhunt was going to unleash the offense in the second half. And this is when Harrison for the Steelers gets the big interception and runs it back 100 yards basically for the touchdown. That's what changed this game. That's what this game was all about. Because if Arizona goes in, the second half, Arizona ran over Pittsburgh, but it was too late. Wisenhunt admits it was a mistake. Larry Fitzgerald was by far the best player on the field that day. He should have been Super Bowl MVP. He should have at least one Super Bowl in his career. There's two games that I remember I regret all time for their coaches. It's the 85 team where Ditka didn't get Walter Payton a touchdown in the Super Bowl. That's still the biggest crime in NFL history. And it was Larry Fitzgerald not winning this game because of the game plan almost worked. I know it got screwed up by a weird Super Bowl. So that's what I remember about this game. Then, of course, the San Antonio Holmes drive. So it really was a better game than I remember. You're talking, you still got Polamalu at the height of his powers. You got Harrison, all these things. Big Ben could still walk both directions. Pretty incredible stuff. Made some great throws, but a really good game. I was bitter. I'm kind of. You guys are NFC East guys. I live in Pittsburgh country. I haven't liked Pittsburgh since Mean Joe Green was selling Coca-Cola back in '79. There is a picture of me out there with a Pittsburgh Steelers shirt on. Okay, so here's a funny story about Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think it was kindergarten, and I don't know that there's school pictures that day because I didn't tell my mom or whatever. So I get to school and they're like, oh, we gotta go take school pictures. So I'm like, all I have on is my Pittsburgh Steelers sweatshirt. So they're out somewhere out there. There's a school picture of kindergarten Jeff in a Pittsburgh Steelers sweatshirt. So maybe I find that. I need it too.
We need that picture.
I'll try to come up with that. My mom's probably watching. She'll probably have it on here before we say it. So anyway, but it's been a long time. So my best friend's a Steelers fan. So I never root against them. I don't want them to be miserable, but I'm just like you guys. I'm like, really anybody but the Steelers. So when the Packers exacted a little bit of revenge a couple years later, I was all in. But that's what I remember about this game is what could have been for Larry Fitzgerald.
But he had arguably the greatest wide receiver playoff run. I think he had
it was unreal.
40 catches, 500 yards, 7. I know he had the game-winning play. Remember,
it was over. He had it.
Yeah, he had the Jets,
yeah,
right?
We thought so,
He's never been known as a burner. But on that play, before to go up right before the Steelers get the drive and win the game, that play where he's open and he just shoot it was yo. They're gonna win the Super Bowl, and his run, that Packers game. I believe they played the Packers that year, right? And he had that overtime. I could be wrong.
That's
And
Coach
he had that
remembers
catch goes all the way, and then he did a shovel pass.
Is that the fumble?
He had a tremendous run. I mean, that run was so much fun.
I remember his first touchdown. He runs one of the best routes I've ever seen. He catches. It was a perfect throw by Warner. Just everything. He had 7 catches for 127 yards. But again, they didn't unleash him until late in the game. They did it on purpose. How about Edgerrin James was the running back for Arizona in this game? Anybody remember that?
Yes, Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Hall of Famer. How about Steve Breston? 6 catches for 71 yards in this game.
The Michigan man. The Michigan man. Yes.
I remember.
Mo like Steve Breston.
You know what's crazy? So the story about.
No, I'm not joking. I think you like Steve Breston.
Yeah. Jeff remembers all conversations we've had. I actually was a big fan of Steve Breston because at the time when he was at Michigan, I hated Michigan, but at the same time, I was so young, I still was playing Little League football and all that. So you wanted to be certain guys.
Yeah.
I remember when Steve Breston was playing, I was 10, 11 years old. I think Ohio State went to the national championship in 06, 07. Like I was in middle school.
Both. They went to both.
Yeah, so I wanted to be like I wanted to be like Steve Breston. You got to remember he was one of the best receivers in college football.
Absolutely.
And he was at Michigan. So it was like I was playing wide receiver at the time and I was like backup quarterback. So like I mirrored, like I love Chad Johnson, T.O. And then like when it came to college guys, like it was Steve Breston, Ted Ginn. So yeah, I actually was a Steve Breston fan. Like I was still young and innocent enough that I didn't just hate anything and everything about Michigan, but as I've grown older, like it's like I can't believe I ever rooted for that guy.
Who wants the young Mo show? You know, we got young Sheldon, we got the Goldbergs. I need young Mo.
Right.
Just
Right.
I want to see the process of Mo going from young,
Bro,
young open-minded Mo to become the angry. I want to like me versus the world Mo that we got now. I want to see how it like. Every week I'll just see him watch
that because everybody's like they like now that I'm an adult, they're like, man, you used to be so like laid back and chill. Now you just
ruin you.
Like, yeah, right.
No, I want an episode each week of Mo watching a different game and hating the winning team and just developing lifelong.
Like that's how it was though. Like back then it was just like I loved my teams. The only team I really loved like and would like die for is Ohio State. Outside of like I absolutely love Dallas and love Miami Heat, but like I will die behind Ohio State. And so like even watching that game when they played Ohio State played Michigan, it was like, man, like I want Steve Breston to do so good, but if he does that good, they might beat Ohio State.
That's
so
all right, man. You have mixed feelings.
Mixed emotions at that point.
It's so like Kurt Warner 377, 3 touchdowns. Fitzgerald 7 receptions, 127 yards. Santonio Holmes 9 receptions, 131 yards, and the game-winning touchdown. Like there was some serious performances that night.
That was like one of those like that Philly. Obviously lower scoring, but like that Philly and New England game, like it was a very hot, like it was an offensive game, but you think about it that time, like offense wasn't 40 something to 30 something. Like that was the time where if you got in the high 20s, low 30s, like that was a high powered offensive game. And you see numbers that you typically don't see week in and week out. That's why like that that's why part of that, like a game like that is why people say like back then, some of those guys, their numbers would be through the roof right now because it's like it's offensive.
Kurt Warner was doing it in the late 90s. Like what he would do now is just incredible.
That greatest show on turf probably
was
the
team.
greatest team we've ever seen if they played today.
So, but it was the one interception. It was the one defensive play that stopped him. But
narrative of everything.
Yeah, Arizona did everything almost right except for. I mean that was a 14-point swing, game over. But
it's one play. That's what games like that come down to. Like you do 99 things right, but that one thing that you do wrong is what everybody remembers, and that's the one thing that determines.
How did we forget this? One other player in the game that we somehow overlooked: Anquan Bolton.
Yes,
8 receptions for 80 yards. So he got his Super Bowl a few years later. But shout out to Anquan Bolton. Like, just
bro, those teams were really crazy talented.
That team was loaded.
Both teams, like,
because they went 9-7. That Cardinals team went 9-7.
Right,
and you look back and you're like, wow.
I believe that was a year after.
Really good.
I think that's a year after Bolton getting his face crushed, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, the Jets, fractured sinus. Yeah.
Who was their running back that year? Was it? It wasn't Edgerrin James.
Yeah, it was Edgerrin James.
I thought so.
But it
was old Edgerrin James though. Like,
he had a good game. He had a pretty good game. He had 33 yards rushing. You also had Tim Hightower, JJ Arrington.
Yeah,
and
University of Richmond, stand up. Let's go, Tim Hightower. Alumni Association, let's go.
That team did not run the ball. That team was not about running the ball.
This is why I love these shows because it brings back names. Tim Hightower, like he got you in the NFL at one point. JJ Arrington had
wait a minute, hold on. I got the name of the
point.
game for you. Starting running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers was Fast Willie Parker.
Oh,
shout out
University of North Carolina. Let's go.
One of coach's nephews.
But Willie Parker, like when you think
two-time
about
Super Bowl winner, two-time
he
Super
was
Bowl
good.
winner.
He was a good player at that point in time. Like that's why going down the line and you'd be like, who was on these rosters? Like, yeah, we remember the stars, the guys who were going in the Hall of Fame and things like that. And then when you really start thinking about guys who have an impact on the game that you just aren't common names, you're like Willie Parker, JJ, and like I vividly remember watching all of them.
And another all-timer in the game, Hines Ward. Hines Ward was on the Steelers.
Yes.
Shout out to maybe one of the best pound for pound football players I ever watched in my entire life.
Yeah.
Like I can't say enough of good things about the guy.
He's
so.
the greatest throwing wide receiver ever. He's the greatest throwing wide receiver.
No, man, that's
Antoine
yeah,
Randall.
yeah.
No, I'm thinking
And who gave him the bag?
Antoine Randall.
Is Cordell Stewart still in there since he actually became a quarterback, or is he eliminated?
Oh, that's
no,
right.
he's eliminated because he wasn't throwing passes from the wide receiver
I want to
position.
do. I want to do a 7-part documentary and break down Slash Stewart's quarterback career.
Right now, I got PTSD because after that game, we paid Antoine Randall some money. We overpaid by overpaid.
Y'all went through stretches where y'all were just paying dudes.
Oh my god!
Bro, Randall L was a baller though. Like people, that's like when you bring back all those like people.
Was he?
Yeah, he was a baller. I mean, he wasn't
a baller. He was alright.
He was decent.
Bro, he was. He was Hall of Fame. Like when I say he's not Hall of Fame or he was great, but like bro, Randall L had those games like when you needed him to. Like we're gonna game plan for everybody, but Randall. Boom, like 120 yards and we win the game because of Randall.
That was also when they gave that guy. They gave those whoever the best player was in the Super Bowl for like a decade. The next year got the biggest contract.
Yeah.
Like the guy for the Raiders, the famous was it Washington coach, the defensive back that had the interceptions versus or no, I'm sorry, for Dallas. He went to the Raiders.
Larry Brown.
Al Davis was paying everyone.
Larry Brown. Yeah, he was the Super Bowl MVP. Yeah, he was Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, Super Bowl MVP was one of the worst defensive backs in the league after that. That was just back when
that was when like Super Bowl
Desmond
MVPs
Howard.
were paid.
Desmond Howard's a Super Bowl MVP.
That's gross. That's gross.
Right.
And you know who was a quarterback on that team? As a backup, Jim McMahon.
Whoa, he wasn't he?
That's wild, ain't it?
But
Visor, that was Visor, PT, like total like CTE influence.
Correct.
Visor, Jim McMahon.
Correct.
Oh my gosh,
Correct.
you're right.
when you look at like even when you just look at Super Bowl MVPs, like Dexter Jackson, arguably the most irrelevant player on the Buccaneers, won Super Bowl MVP.
How does Derrick Brooks not get that?
Because it's a game. Because it's just one game.
It's just one game.
But Derrick Brooks had the best game.
When you think about it, though, like of all the players on that Bucs defense that year, Dexter Jackson was the Super Bowl MVP. Like
Malcolm Smith.
But he made a good play, though. He made some good plays for
the Seahawks.
No, but he did some pick six.
And he got paid. And then he got paid.
And he got paid by the Raiders, right? The Raiders.
Dexter Jackson had the pick six that he sealed the game, but the game was over at that point. Like he sealed it, and it was like an icon. But you had Derrick
Brooks was the best player in that game.
He had multiple interceptions, though, right? Didn't he?
Yeah, you could have gave it to Simeon Rice. You could have gave it to a bunch of
Warren Sapp, John Lynch, like Rondé Barber. Like when you look at that team and you look at all the players on that defense, you're like,
John Gruden should have got it.
Was the Super Bowl MVP of the Bucs.
Right, John Gruden, right.
John Gruden should have won it because he knew all the plays and like Taylor was like, oh my God, we are screwed.
John Gruden stole Tony Dungy's Super Bowl. Let's just be honest. Like he stole Tony Dungy's.
Was that man Warwick Dunn still on that team?
No.
Yeah. Yes, he was. Warwick Dunn was with the Bucs.
He was with the Falcons.
No, in 03?
I think he was still. I think with the Falcons after that.
It was Warwick Dunn, Mike Allstott. No,
Mike
Pittman.
Allstott didn't win a Super Bowl.
Mike Allstott was on that team.
Was Keyshawn Johnson was on that team?
So and Keenan Cardell.
He was in Atlanta.
He was already in Atlanta.
Because you had the wide.
I knew it was close.
The wide receiver.
They had Pittman. Pittman was the running back.
So they did have
Mike Pittman. Yeah, Mike Pittman.
You talk about those names, I start feeling old. Like, but because you had Keenan Cardell, Joe Vicious, and Keyshawn Johnson.
Don't you ever? You said we talk about Joe Vicious now. That's where we're at.
Former Giant.
We are digging. We are digging.
Vicious. That was the. Because you looked at their offense and you're like,
I'm getting a lot of emails for more Joe Vicious talk. A lot of people hit me up.
Do a profile of Joe Vicious.
That was their because didn't Keenan Cardell leave and get paid by the Chargers after that?
Yeah,
he got paid by the Chargers
before that.
No, he's on the Chargers before that. I think Tampa Bay paid him.
Tampa Bay paid him.
Bro, that's so long ago.
I was like, went to like Jacksonville or something, right? I think he went to like Jacksonville.
There you go.
He was great in Jacksonville.
He got paid some money somewhere.
Yeah.
Because then that
Yeah,
was when
he was with Jimmy Smith, right?
Jimmy
It was him,
Smith
Jimmy
and
Smith.
McCardell.
Yeah,
Jimmy
Jimmy
Smith.
Smith and Keenan
They-
McCardell.
they-
All right.
They had the legendary, real quick, Martin Grammatica. Just got to throw out, give the kicker some love. Martin
Shout out to
Grammatica.
Martin.
I
All
told
right,
you,
so
Yeah,
man,
squad, man. That Tampa Bay
Right.
defense was.
I was a
man.
Bucks
shit.
fan in my
Wait,
past.
wait a minute. Let's get it straight here too. It was cover 2. That's it.
Yeah, it was the
It was
Tampa
cover
2
two.
defense.
System.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Tampa
Yeah,
2
it was
defense.
cover 2.
Yep.
Like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but everybody's like goes
They
crazy. I'm
dominate.
like, yeah, it was cover 2, and they had really good
That D
players.
line was disgusting too, though. Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If
Simeon
you gotta-
Rice should be a Hall of Famer. bro.
Parlay.
if you can
Yeah,
rush
right.
4 and
Simeon
drop
Rice
the
needs to be in
rest,
the
like
Hall of Fame.
you can do well.
people
I'm just
forget
saying.
how good Booger
Shout out
McFarland was because he has
Yeah.
terrible
Yeah.
on ESPN now. But like,
Shout out to
Booger,
Brad
Booger
Johnson.
Mobile.
Booger
You don't
was
miss the
all
Booger.
right.
Yeah,
he
Booger
was
was
a good football player. Like, he wasn't great, but he was a good football
All right,
player.
we got sidetracked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who didn't make the
amazing.
list. So
Brad
our
Johnson.
last game, we saved this game till last because 2 of our guests tonight picked it. So we've got Super Bowl 42. This is who doesn't remember this? It was played in 2008. Let's see where it was played. This feels like it was played in a dome.
Arizona.
It was
Oh,
Arizona.
it's played in Arizona.
Yep.
This-
February 3rd,
dome.
2008.
8. Yep. Arizona.
So February
That-
3rd,
that- I'll never
2008.
forget that day. That day
The
is
New
like,
York Giants topple the currently undefeated Patriots 17-14. It's honestly it's the biggest upset in history as far as like what was on the line and compared to the outcome of the game. The 10-6 New York Giants regular season record, have to take the wild card route. They play the game in Green Bay that they played to where I thought 2 or 3 of the guys were going to die from hypothermia on the field. They get through all that. They make it there. We got the catch. The guys will talk about here in a second. And New York Giants pulled out with a Plexico burst at the touchdown, towards the end of the game, and a broke up. I believe I wouldn't even call it a Hail Mary. It was really a broke up pass play at the end of the game. Everybody forgets Patriots are inches away from pulling a miracle out of the hat, but they didn't. New York Giants win.
They're always inches away in the Super Bowls they lose.
Yes,
It's
Eli
right.
Manning,
Correct.
New York Giants take it. So we'll start with the winning team. Chris LeBron, tell us why you picked Super Bowl 42, as if we don't know.
So obviously biased because that's my team, but besides that, just think about the buildup. You have the Patriots who are breaking. Tom Brady breaks every record possible. Moss, that tandem is the greatest tandem we've seen. Moss breaks the receiving touchdown record. 18-0. They're killing everyone. And then you got this New York Giants team. They start off 0-2. Everybody wants Eli gone. Everybody wants Coughlin gone. Everybody wants everybody gone. Rebuild. Let's do this thing all over. They win 6 straight. All right. They had to fight their way into the playoffs. They win the game in Buffalo, to lock in. And then week 17, they're playing the Patriots. Patriots are going for the undefeated streak. Giants are going in. No reason to play. They already got their spot locked up. They know who they're playing. They're playing Tampa Bay the next week, no matter what. No matter the outcome, they're playing Tampa Bay. They go in and they fight. They go tooth and nail with the Patriots, and they fall short. But that, to me, gave them all the confidence going to playoffs. Then they win. They win in Tampa. Then we go play Mo's Dallas Cowboys, 13-3 Dallas Cowboys. That team was really good. That Cowboys team was loaded, but guess what we did? We stomped them out.
Yeah, they disappointed me once again.
We stomped them out. Just R.W. McQuarters with the game-winning interception in there in the end zone. That's another throwback name, R.W. McQuarters. And then we got to go all the way. We got to go to Green Bay. It's so cold. Oh my God, they can't beat them. Oh, it's frigid. All that nonsense. And then we know what happens. Corey Webster with the interception, and Brett Favre, like he always does in crucial moments. And we go to Super Bowl, and it's the day before my birthday. It is just, the game is just, I'm anxious, I'm nervous, everything, and just and to be honest, that first half, it was like 7-3. I believe. Like the first half was it was a snoozer, but it picked up in the second half, and we all know how it ends and all that. That last like 10 minutes of that football game was some of the
thing
most
is, It was a snoozer, but I also remember this is one of the everybody made money on this game. It's one of the biggest lines in NFL history. I believe when I got it, it was the Giants plus 10.
Yeah,
It was crazy.
It was the biggest
And
line yet.
what made this game so much fun was it didn't like the tension, because as long as it stayed close, the pressure and the tension on New England going, becoming the second team to go undefeated in the season was amazing. Obviously, as a Dolphins fan, I couldn't have had more on the line. Like, I was ready to pop the champagne. Me and Mercury Morris was ready to, take a stroll around the neighborhood. And this is another, like, what are we watching? Because, to like Chris is telling his, like, what the Giants were that year. And I'll get to Coach here in a second about the other side of it. But what I want to say is, like, for anybody that doesn't like quite remember how good that Patriots team was, it wasn't just undefeated. They were so far above the rest of the league that year, whether they had close games or not. They were just an absolute force of nature. Randy Moss was unstoppable. So we'll put it this way: there were no chinks in the armor. Above being undefeated, there wasn't a crack in the foundation. There was no weakness. There was no weakness to be sold there. And honestly, in my opinion, the Giants defensive line played one of the best games in NFL history. So, Couch Coach, tell us your version. You picked this game. Tell us how you saw it, and and why you thought it was the best you ever watched.
And almost to mirror Prez's thoughts, especially the 0-2, and who they get their first victory against? The Washington football team. They went into Washington. Yep, and Plaxico burned. He burned us, and I remember that because that was my first ever NFL game I ever went to. So, and that team fought. I just tooth and nail all year. And then just going in, because you got to think about, this is a different time where we had social media, but it's not like what it is now. So there was really only a few storylines. It wasn't a lot of narratives. The biggest narrative was, is this Patriot team the best team of all time? Is the Giants even in this game? That was the tenor. And I remember when people asked Plaxico what was the score of the game, hey, we're going to hold New England to 17.
And Tom Brady laughed.
And he laughed.
We're only going to score 17.
Right, we're only going to score. Plax said we're going to score 17 and just start laughing. And I was like, that's when I think, to me, Tom Brady and the Patriots became like a villain to me. Because normally they used to be under the vest, to be the other team that don't provide bulletin board material. And that was one of the things I looked at it. And just from the historical standpoint, like you said, that the Patriots team, that was an all-time great team. They beat us 56-7, and we were a playoff team that year. So it was almost literally boys against men when they were going in and week out. So this is one of those things where it's like, hell, even as a divisional foe, I'm rooting for the Giants, because the Patriots, they that's when I think their arrogance really started for me personally. Where they were beating teams out in almost in disrespectful ways.
No,
right, exactly. So that's when it's almost like, us against the world. Like, we always like Giants that day.
Absolutely.
That's what we were America's team. I believe we were America's team.
No, 100%.
Yeah, that one night, everybody was like, we don't want to see the Patriots win. We want to see the Giants win. And
that's when
that was the first time I felt like everyone was uniset on, like, no, we can't see the Patriots win, like everything. But like the drama of that drive, the Giants drive, right? Everyone thinks about the catch, right? And but the drama of that whole drive, the Giants needed a 4th and 1 to convert, and they barely convert with Brandon Jacobs. And then people forget Asante Samuel drops an interception.
Yes.
Right? Eli Manning Eli Manning is a hero in that Super Bowl, but man, he pulled off an Eli Manning by doing one of those "what are you doing" plays, and he's lucky that who's led the league in interceptions. Like, he's a Hall of Fame type cornerback.
Yeah.
He drops it. It's in his hands. He drops it. That's how you knew it was fate. Steve Smith has a 3rd and 10 that he converts. Everything just went their way. And then obviously Plaxico sluggo route, Ellis Hobbs bites. Plaxico does a
great route. Great route and great throw.
Yeah.
And let's talk about for 5 minutes. For 5 minutes, Randy Moss has what we assume is the Super Bowl winning catch that's going to cap off his Hall of Fame career. Like, we all thought that game was over.
Yeah.
Like, it was over.
Yeah.
And I just saw a stat here, and I was reading through the stuff. The Giants had, at that point, I didn't look at if it's changed, but it probably hasn't. They have the record for 11 consecutive road wins
Yes.
in a single season. Like, you want to talk about a tough team that knows mentally. You talk about a mentally tough team. Like, it's unbelievable. Here's how the scoring went. Like, so it starts off Giants 3-0. Then it goes New England 7-3 at the end of the second. Then in the fourth quarter, 10-7 Giants. Then all of a sudden it's Patriots 14-10, then Giants 17-14. Like, that's how that game went. This wasn't a comeback by anybody. It wasn't. This was. It was just. It was really something to see. And then that, and it's also, side note, one of the biggest baths that Vegas has ever took. They lost on the under, and they lost on the point spread in this game. It's one of the biggest defeats in Vegas history too. So,
but Jeff, it's
really fun game.
All right. So the Giants score, right? Plaxico scores. I don't get the Patriots attack plan. I understand you have Randy Moss, right? So you're doing old school, like, all right, Randy's going to throw his hand up. Tom Brady, you throw it as far as you can. I don't get the philosophy of trying to get a home run. You need a field goal to tie the game to go to overtime. All right. So why not tell Tom, hey, hit your spots? There's a lot of time. You have
is this when he learned the lesson?
Let's go to overtime, and then we'll beat them in overtime. Like, I don't get Bill Belichick's thought process and the offensive when the game. You still got time left. You got your timeouts. Why are you trying to throw Hail Marys? On the Giants, at like the 20-yard line, 30-yard. It didn't make sense their attack plan once they were down. Well, you get the field goal.
This is the conversation that we don't have about the New England a lot because of how successful they were. But they have, and honestly, if Atlanta can finish off that game again, they have some serious blemishes on their their history that you're like, how did you not win this one? How did you lose this one? I mean, the Philadelphia game, both New York Giants games.
They should have won all three.
They should have lost. They should have lost the Seattle game, and they should have. So it's like there are blemishes out there to be had. That is a conversation, but they were also so successful that you're like, it doesn't matter. Like, you win 6.
But
so
that one probably hurts more than any loss.
I think that's one of the worst. That's one of the worst losses ever. Like we talked about.
Tom Brady still's like, that one hurts.
No, that's they'll never
losing to the Eagles.
I think coming out of that, Randy Moss has to be one of his biggest, like, just what ifs in his career for sure. Jurg, what'd you think about this game, man?
It was crazy. So, to date myself, I was in 5th grade when that game was played. Awesome. And I just remember the coach.
I'm gonna go. I'll be back. I'm gonna go drink.
Right.
I just, first off, I will say this. I remember the whole week at school, like, it was a celebrate because there was like it was like one of those things where, like, they would announce it, not like the Cincinnati school system where we got school off the next day. No. We still have to go to school that day. But it was pretty wild. I like. One of my teachers was like a Giants fan, so he was happy as hell. Like, a lot of the 5th grade teachers, because I was in 5th grade, like they were all Giants fans, so they were happy as hell that entire week. But, like, I was so young that I didn't understand in full context. That's one of those things where it's like, you need to understand, kind of like you mentioned before, Jeff. It's like, you need time, like, you need to grow up a little bit and, like, look back and really understand all the context with that game. And it's like, you said yourself, if Tom Brady could, he would trade the last 3 Super Bowls that the Pats won to get just that one back.
Absolutely.
He would.
Yes.
Because that was perfection at its finest. Like you say it best, Jeff. Like, with teams like the Pats, and we forget about this because they have the 6 championships. I think in the NBA with the Spurs, because they won the 5 championships, we forget about some of the mismanagements and, like, mistakes that were made. Literally the year before the Spurs' last title, like, Pop sat Tim Duncan, right? So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, it kind of gets forgotten in history. Like, honestly, it jogged my memory when he brought it up, because you look back at that situation, and the Pats could have just gone for this high. And who's to say they don't win that? I will say, like, my personal answer for that is I think it's one of 2 things. I think just in the heat of the moment, like, no matter how brilliant you are, no matter how much game planning you do, no matter how prepared you may be, in the heat of the moment, like, you may not always make the best decision, and that could come back to haunt you. And, like, that's kind of one of the things when we were talking about the Arizona Cardinals and Steelers game earlier. It's like Ken Wisenhunt, like, that's one of those cases where it's like, you never know when you're going to get back. Yeah. And, like, the regret of that Cardinals team. The Patriots, of course, history shows that they can regret that game, but they got 3 more Super Bowls after that, and they had 5 total appearances after. But it's just one of those things where it's like, I think in the heat of the battle, they didn't they didn't see that as the go-to. And you look at that, because I was actually, Jeff, I've kind of been doing the same thing as you, like as we've been going along. I look back at that season, they only had 4 one-score games the entire season, including the playoffs.
They were tremendous.
So I can't necessarily blame the fact that they believe, like, okay, we're going to hit the home run play here. Like, just finally, this is going to be the play. Like, and I think it goes with what Coach said, the ego of that team. I think that's the one time where the Pats really allowed ego to dictate everything. Because if you're Tom Brady that season, at that point, you set the record in passing touchdowns. Randy Moss had set the receiving touchdown record that still stands. Belichick, like, sometimes we're all human. And that was an example. You talked about it before, like they were gods that season. That was the game. That was the possession where the Immortals looked mortal. They made the mortal man mistake there.
What I remember most, like what I take away from that game long term in NFL history, that's when it didn't change the way we look or play defensive line, but it changed the focus and like, okay, this is the path of the future, and the defensive line position, the importance of it, the money, how you draft has changed ever since that night. Mo Murphy, thoughts on the Super Bowl 42?
Yeah, this was like a time where like I was rooting for the Giants. Like, you know, I hated the Patriots at that point in time. Like Coach said, like they were like the villains. Like they were undefeated. They were feeling themselves. They already had won the Super Bowl. Like, you know, they were starting to become like, and then, you know, they were threatening the whole America's team thing. So, you know, I wasn't feeling that much.
That's fair.
People are like, they're the Patriots.
That's what this had. That's it. I know. I feel
Season 2, episode 3. Why Mo turned on the Patriots.
Clip that he said he was rooting for the Giants. So we got to clip that for future.
But that was a real conversation though. Was like they're named the Patriots. They're winning Super Bowls. Like the Cowboys stink at this point in time. They should be America's team because America's all about winning. So who's winning right now? They're the Patriots. They got the colors. You know, they're in New England. They're in the state of Massachusetts. Like everything screams America for the Patriots. So then Giants come in there as underdogs. You start to develop, you know, a hate for Tom Brady. I really think it was, if you weren't a Patriots fan, you were rooting for the Giants. Period, point blank. I think the whole world kind of wanted to see the Giants win just because at that point, Patriots were very, very much hated. And I think the catch was a little, to me, and because I played quarterback, I think the catch was a little overrated. And I say this because nobody really gives Eli Manning enough credit for the throw that he made. Like, he escaped the pocket. He like, so when you're learning as a young kid trying to play quarterback, like that's like your coach would sit next to you and be like, that's how you escape pressure out of the pocket and make a play. Like, yes, it took that catch to happen. But like with Eli Manning, basically he should have been sacked. Like it doesn't get.
Well, the play was almost called dead too.
Wait, let me tell you something.
They had him by the jersey.
Let me tell you something real quick. If Eli Manning,
Adales Thomas is 6'6", 275 pounds. Eli Manning could get Strahan even said it. I would touch Eli and he falls down. Adales Thomas had him dragged.
Hey, let me tell you, if Eli Manning is wearing those Kevlar jerseys that I had to wear when I was growing up playing football, Patriots win the Super Bowl because they didn't stretch. He would have been yanked down, game over, no catch, no history. That jersey stretched 6 feet, it looked like.
But that throw, like the fact of making the play, like I'm not saying the catch was overrated.
Eli played a great game.
There's not enough love in the throw that made it happen. Like it's like
who he threw it to. He didn't throw it to Plaxico. He threw it to a guy who was dropping every pass in practice.
Right.
David Tyree, a special teamer. He
a
wasn't
guy
in the
who made it
rotation.
for
This
himself.
wasn't Amani Toomer. This wasn't Plaxico Burris. This was David Tyree.
Who was out of the league like years later.
His name is stamped in history for that catch, and it's one of those. But like I said, like when you're a young kid, and you know, like coaches used to, hey, y'all need to watch and pay attention to your position when you're watching the NFL or college football or whatever. So it was like when you watch Eli Manning, like that's how you get out of pressure or whatever. And like you say, he could have been whistled down, but he doesn't get enough love for that play on that. Like it's all about David Tyree, and that's why I say it started to become overrated because we give him all the credit as if like the play that happened behind the line of scrimmage for Eli Manning to even be able to get that off wasn't just as great.
Too, we have to remember too, this was right when we were entering the years of the camera angles and the high def television. So it lucked out that catch was filmed so perfectly, because all the cameras at the Super Bowl. So we got to sit and watch that in slow motion over and over. So that was what really made it was just like the debate around the world. We're all sitting on our couch while they're showing the replay over and over and over. And we're like, because we'd never seen anything like it. It's on his helmet. And we're like, so then you have these mini debates. So for like 3 minutes of our lives, everybody in the world is debating whether it's a catch or not. And is it the greatest catch? Like you're having instant debates. Like, is that the greatest catch? Is that the greatest play in NFL history? Like right now, like if you stop the tape right then at that second, like we already knew the impact of this catch. So like you're correct, Mo. And I thought Eli played a really great game. And to your point, all the training and the muscle memory and everything kicked in on those plays because he got harassed a little bit in the pocket. Tom Brady got beat up that game, but Eli wasn't. He wasn't sitting back there, smoking cigars. Like he had to fight for it too, but he had to do that the whole playoffs.
Yeah,
and that was the last of the Patriots' great defense. Like that was the end for some of the really good players.
They had Junior Seau, Brewski, still Vince Wilfork.
Wow,
they still had some bad.
And they played good. They played good.
Dante Samuels. What's his face?
Richard Seymour.
Richard Seymour was there.
Who's the safety?
Rodney Harrison.
Rodney Harrison. Yeah, it was a catch. It was a catch.
Like, he's batting the ball down. It's not good, and it's not like it's just that whole play is. It's just like Rodney Harrison would bat that down for if that was Randy Moss or whoever, let alone David Tyree. It's just, and then the ball the ball's going on the ground and it doesn't touch it. Like it's like everything. The football gods were on our side that whole drive. That whole drive, the football gods were like, we don't want them to win. We're gonna unless you guys screw it. We're going to give you every opportunity to win this.
And then they gave it back to him against Atlanta with the Edelman catch, which is one of the great catch. Like how that ball doesn't touch the turf. You know what I mean? It's like they gave it back to him, but that's what I mean. It's these microcosms in sports. It's why we love it's literally why we love the game, because it's split seconds in sports that change everything. I mean, they change
history. Like one
change history.
History.
Yeah, and that's one of the plays that when it's happening. Like as soon as it happens, you're like, oh, that just changed history. Like if Seattle runs Marshawn Lynch into the end zone a few years later, we're talking about that is one of the greatest catches in NFL history. Instead, it's forgot. Like it's just erased from the memory books because of the interception.
That's why football is so great, because
it's just wonderful.
And that's why playoff football is better than any other playoff of any sport. Like the NFL playoffs is the greatest playoff of professional sports.
It's the stories behind it.
Yeah,
I mean, we just
one game. That's where the any given Sunday comes from. Like every other sport is like you play in a series, so we have to see the same teams play. The better team doesn't always win. Like essentially, like every Sunday, like it's not always. You just have to be better.
It's mad.
Now one day, I don't care how many times people say like if the Giants play the Patriots 10 times, it's like, but it doesn't matter because the Patriots they beat them.
Right, they beat them.
I mean this seriously. If they replay that game 100 times, it might be one time.
But the story of the Giants road, it's a legit, like a great story. Like the whole Giants season and the Patriots season is,
I think,
David versus Goliath to me in sports history, because
them and the Ravens
were just. They're struggling. Couch, we went into Washington and we could have lost that game, and everyone's gonna get fired.
0-3.
We lose that game, everyone getting fired. And the Patriots are rolling. They keep beating people by 50, and like Tom Brady's winning MVP, unanimous, all this, and the Giants are just like this blue collar team that's just.
They had to go through Brett Favre, right? Didn't they go through Brett Favre?
We beat Brett Favre. Tony
Plaxico Burress just covered in Vaseline.
Yeah,
that's a real thing.
You got the images too, like Tom Coughlin's face.
Yeah, Coughlin almost died that night.
Lawrence Tynes kicking big time field goals to help us get to the Super Bowl in that whole playoffs. Like he hit some big time kicks in that playoffs to get us, to help us win games, and then obviously get us to the Super Bowl. 2 big kicks after missing 3 kicks. He missed 3 kicks in that NFC Championship game against the Packers, and he still hit some big kicks to win.
And that was Brett Favre's last game as a Packer.
It was a lot. Yep. We ended
Oh
it.
yeah.
We ended it.
Yeah. 'Cause that's
Wow.
when you went to the Jets. Because remember, he was a cover of Madden, and then they end up.
Yeah, because the next year, because the next year
ended
the
up with the
Jets,
Jets.
the
He went
Jets
to
were like
the
9-3. The Giants were
Brett,
10-1.
I
And it
remember
was
if
like,
I remember correct. If I remember correct, he was on the cover of Madden. Brett Favre was very photogenic that year.
Because everyone thought it was going to be a
Oh,
Jets Giants Super Bowl. Because the Jets were good. The Giants were 10-1 until Plaxico shot himself. That's when he shot himself in the leg. Jets were like 8-2, 9-2. People were like, yo, we're going to get a New York Super Bowl possibly because they were rolling. We were rolling.
The Dolphins stepped in and saved everything. Shout out to Chad Pennington. So I'm seriously, gentlemen, that show was awesome. Basically, what we were trying to show everybody here is like, once you really start thinking about it, it's like how the memories last, how big of a game this is, how important it is. It really is like it's not even an American holiday anymore. It's a world holiday. It's something we all watch. We all have plays that we can talk about it, at the bar, having a couple beers. We can talk about endless conversations. We're going to do a lot of it this week. Couch Coach Live has Super Week coming up. Me and Mo got some more Super Bowl shows coming up. Chris LeBron is always out there. Like, you're going to see us all week. We got best ofs. We got what could have been. We could probably do an hour if I just asked what was the better throw, the helmet catch or the Mario Manningham catch. I bet we could do an hour just discussing like those two plays in Super Bowl history, because I think the Mario Manningham throw is one of the greatest throws in NFL history. Then we talked about the Roethlisberger throw. We talked about the Fitzgerald, the what ifs. We talked about like Fitzgerald and Randy Moss don't have a Super Bowl win. And we're talking about two of the greatest players in NFL
We didn't
history.
even talk about the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl. We
didn't even get into that. Before the show, we did 10 minutes on that. So, Couch Coach Live didn't even get to talk about the 91 Washington. I haven't got to talk about my love affair with Doug Williams yet. Like, there's so much more that we got going on. It's a great time right now. It's a great time to be a football fan. It's a great time to be a podcaster. So I want to thank all these guys for coming on. Jurg, you're doing great things out there, man. Thank you so much for being on the show again. It's I'm glad to have you. I missed you. Mo, obviously you're the best. Couch Coach Live, good luck with this week. I know you're going to be a busy guy. Chris LeBron, the Prez. I hope you get some sleep and get to put out all your shows. I know you got a busy life right now, and I appreciate all your guys' time. This was a great show. Thanks everybody for watching. Enjoy the week. Go to offtheballnetwork.com, support us all, and be kind to each other.